a penal sum. The federal government, the district postal courts of the government, the court clerk is the head banker. The head court clerk at every federal district court is the head banker. Most people think it's the judge. No, it's the court clerk. Mary, in Portland, Oregon, at the 9th District Federal Court, which is 7 states, by the way. Their headquarters is in Portland, Oregon. Mary, Judge Mosman's the head judge over all the other judges, but Mary controls the books. Okay? And she goes online with the Department of Fiscal Services. Who are they? Oops. Who are they? They're the accountants for the United States Treasury. That's the accounting department of the United States Treasury. They keep track of everything fiscal. Okay? And Mary, upon indictment, fills out an SF 273 form, which is a bid bond form upon indictment. What is an indictment? An indictment is a true bill. They're giving you an invoice. You have just been indicted. Here's your bill. That's what they did. And how many people are smart enough to go, well, how much is the bill? How much is it? Well, the penal sum you've been charged with for a count of fraud is $2 million. Oh, crap, I can't pay that bill. I just don't have it. Right? But that's what the indictment would say if they disclosed the money. Because that's the penal sum. This is the penal sum for that particular crime of fraud. That's how much the bill is on your indictment. But you can't pay the bill, and you didn't bother to ask how much it was anyway. So they bring you up on charges. If you can't pay the charges, you're asked to bond. If you can't pay the bond, your body is held as surety while they steal from your Sesta QV trust. So in order to steal from your Sesta QV trust, she's got to do a bid bond. A bid bond says this person's been indicted, and there's a penal sum of $2 million on that. We're going to put in a bid bond. And on the bid bond, it's going to show, here's what a bid bond is. Let me explain what a bid bond is first before I go in more into what it's going to show. A bid bond is telling the United States Treasury that this person with this CUSIP number that's tied to the birth certificate CUSIP number, because here's our court case number, so now a CUSIP number, it's tied to the birth certificate number. The bid bond is an order to begin liquidation of funds. You got to remember what's inside your Sesta QV trust. United States Treasury bonds. That is not liquid capital. You can't whip it out of your pocket and go spend it right now. It's got to be sold. So it's an order to the Treasury to begin to sell your bond, your U.S. Treasury bonds. Start selling them. Create some liquid capital so that when we ask for it, and we ask for the wire transfer, you'll have it available. That's what it is. Now guess what? On the bid bond sheet is a settlement date. Not only is it a settlement date, but there's another date on there. So There's a date to begin to sell. There's a date on there that says by this date, we're hoping you'll have the penal sum available. And by this date is the date we expect to settle the account. 3 dates on the SF-273 that is done upon indictment. Now understand why I'm saying this and emphasizing it. You haven't been tried yet. You haven't been found guilty. You haven't been sentenced. Right? Guess what this date is? It will correspond to your sentencing date. This will correspond to your trial date. You haven't even been notified of your trial date yet, much less your sentencing date. This is upon indictment. Is this railroading? Is this a predetermined outcome or conclusion? I don't know. You tell me. Upon trial, SF-274 form. Performance bond. That's saying, hey, we just found the guy guilty. You're going to have to perform, Treasury. That's what it does. Notifies them that you better have that penal sum ready because you're going to have to perform. You go to sentencing, you get thrown in jail because your body is now held as surety for the bond. And she fills out the SF-275 form. That's the payment bond. You know what that is? It is a wire transfer order. And within, if court's sentencing is held at 9 o'clock in the morning, which they try and do, they will get paid by 5. If it's later in the day, they'll get paid the following day. Direct wire transfer between the Treasury Department and the court, the federal court. Now, on the state level, looks a little similar, doesn't it? But this is out of the, instead of the Department of Fiscal Services, this is actually out of the GSA. So you go into the state court, court clerk fills out the same kind of a form, only on paper. And guess what? They sell it to the federal court. All lower courts sell to the federal court. The court buys the custom numbers, which were bonded and insured, and they pay the states, courts, through the GSA SF 23, 24, 25A form. Bid bond, payment, performance bond, and payment bond. Same exact thing. All the federal government did is added a 2 in front of it. Well, no, they didn't. They added a 7 in the middle. What am I thinking? I'm not. Don't listen to me. No, that's all they did. It's added a 2 in the middle, 7 in the middle.
So this blueprint is why we have mass incarceration for profit.
Thank you.
Anywhere else in the world?
Sure.
Yeah, like you started out saying. This
Yeah.
is not free.
No. Look up your court. If you've got a court case coming up, who is your enemy? They're a private for-profit business owned by whom? How many employees? No, no, they're not. They're just like a McDonald's franchise. The government sold every branch of government off.
Some of them are owned by judges.
That's right. Some of them are owned by judges. What would happen if you found out your head judge in your county courthouse owned the courthouse? Isn't that supposed to be a public building? See, remember what I said? There are two of everything. There's the United States of America, the de jure government that lives inside each one of us, that President Trump, through executive order, admitted and restored. Okay? And then there's the United States corporation. Two separate animals. There's the state of Arkansas, which is a corporation, and there's Arkansas, a de jure government whose seats are vacant. Okay? What were the common law offices that they could never get rid of? Technically, there's 2.5 of them left. And the reason I say half is the sheriff's department. The sheriff, only one of them. Right? He's half because he's getting paid by the enemy and he's trying to be a de jure government, so he's under conflict and one cannot serve two masters. Okay? Then you have justices of the peace and notary republics. Look at your notary forms very carefully. Your notary forms can say state of Arkansas, or they can say Arkansas State. They can say county of, what was it?
Washington.
County of Washington, or they can say Washington County. They can say notary, or they can say notary republic. Make sure you're using notary forms that describe the jurisdiction that you're in. Because otherwise you can walk in with the best sovereign document into a court, being in common law, and have the wrong notary form, and the judge goes, ha, ha, ha. I'm not going to tell you why, but you're mine, buddy. Right?
When you say notary public, all I've seen is notary public.
There's both. A lot of them say notary.
There is a notary republic.
Yes. Notary public. Notary public, not republic.
I actually said a notary public.
Yes. There's notary publics. That's a common law office. Officer. If you take your notary public and you say as jurat certificate, and then Arkansas State and Washington County, and you autograph it on the right-hand side by, now you've got a common law document. Who's an officer of the court. So it's already accepted by the court the second the notary signed it. Most people don't know that. So they do their documents wrong. Go ahead.
City municipality role in the state role with the Fed, or is municipality in the sense that
Franchises. What if McDonald's bought Burger King? And then Burger King bought Wendy's? See? Just subsidiary corporations.
like SF 73, 273, and they have a similar bond?
States, which are all your counties included, work out of the GSA, and the federal works out of the Department of Fiscal Services. It's all the same stuff, and it's all sold to the feds.
Will these ownership documents of these courts have to be recorded with the Secretary of State if it's a private business? Do they not have to?
What's that?
What will the paperwork, the documents be found on who owns these courts? Will they be at the Secretary of State, or will they be at that county courthouse?
They don't even register their corporations. Except in D.C. I'll bet you the state of Arkansas has an address at 444 West Washington Boulevard, Washington, D.C.
North Capitol Boulevard.
Okay, North Capitol? Okay, yeah, they have different addresses. Every state corporation is registered in D.C. as a subsidiary. Guess what? So is the United States. It's registered under the District of Columbia, which is registered under the Crown Inc. How do you like them apples?
David, is 273, SF 273, is that available by FOIA?
Go to the Department of Fiscal Services website and you can pull up the blanks.
Oh, okay.
See, the average American doesn't go to the Department of Fiscal Services website for anything. It is designed for court clerks to go to the Department of Fiscal Services website. And they ask questions, and you can learn a lot by the questions and answers. It'll show the questions if you click on them, and you don't know to do this, but if you click on them, it'll pull the answer up of the Department of Fiscal Services answering the court clerks. Like, what do you do with a case whose value is more than $100 million? And the Department of Services, when you click on it, because Mary asked that question during the Bundy trials, their case was valued at more than $100 million. That's how much the court would have got. Yeah. And guess what? Well, I was on Ryan Bundy's legal team and Shauna Cox's legal team. And we got them all off. Okay? It wasn't the darn attorneys that did it. It was Shauna Cox and Ryan Bundy who got them all off. You got to understand that. Okay? So, why? Because we fired their attorney. We filed documents in court 3 times, answering the rule of 3. See, Ryan Bundy, he would carry his Bible and he would carry his Constitution into the courtroom. And the U.S. Marshals would confiscate it at the door. And he asked the judge one time, how come I can't bring my Bible and the Constitution in the court? She says, you're not a party to it. Well, that pissed me off. So I came into the picture with that comment. And I said, enough is enough. Ryan, we're going to make it an American state national. We're going to file in the county of your birth. We're going to send it to the Secretary of State. We're going to do a patent of nativity on you. We're going to do a deed of reconveyance on all your names in every which way, shape, and form. And we're going to get it done right now. And then I'm going to start filing documents in your court case. Ryan says, okay, let's do it. And he sat in jail for a while and he was tortured. And we'd enter a document. I knew the rule of 3 hadn't happened. He's going, well, how come the document didn't work? I said, just hold on. Give us some time. I know this process. File another one. He goes, shoot, we filed 2 now. And now people from the outside are starting to attack us, right? You're screwing everything up, blah, 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 blah. And I said, I just shut up. Don't listen to them. We file another document. All 3 of them said about the same thing. We just said it in 3 different ways. And we established his status, his standing, challenged their jurisdiction. We pointed out the fraud. Guess what? There's no statute of limitations on fraud and jurisdiction, right? And we pointed it out. And so as soon as we got that 3rd document filed, I said, Ryan, Monday morning, you've got a court hearing again. Here's what I want you to do. I said, I want you to stuff some toilet paper in the bottom of your pocket. And where there's orange jumpsuits with 1 pocket, right? Stick some toilet paper in the bottom because I want that Constitution sticking up as far as it can possibly stick up. And walk into the courtroom and watch what happens. And he walks in and the U.S. Marshals smile at him, shake his hand. They know this stuff. And the other attorneys for the other guys, and the only ones that went to jail were the ones that signed plea deals, by the way. Everybody else went home. The ones that refused to sign. And he walks in, and nobody took his Constitution. And he sat down, and he watched the attorneys of the other guys question a federal witness. Most of the day. And he just sat there. And the last one got done and told the judge, the defense rests. And the judge looks over at Ryan and says, Ryan, and she smiled real big, and she says, Ryan, would you like to question the witness? Ryan hadn't been allowed to talk since the very first hearing. Every time he went to a hearing, he couldn't talk. And now all of a sudden the judge has asked him if he wants to question the federal witness. Shocked him to the core. But he said, yes, I do. And he walks up to the witness and he says, how long have you been a federal officer? And the guy said, 22 years. And Ryan says, when you took office, did you swear an oath to the Constitution? And he says, yes, I did. And Ryan gets all cocky and he says, well, have you read it? And the guy says, no. And so for 3.5 hours, Ryan went through the Constitution with him and questioned him and asked him and corrected his answers when they were wrong until he agreed. Finally, Ryan says, I'm all done with this witness. And they left. And they all went back to jail. It went a half an hour over till 5:30. And they closed at 5. And they were religious about that. And it went a half an hour over. Thursday, after the Monday of that hearing, they came back for a hearing, and the case was dismissed. And everybody thought it was the Wooten memo. Well, let me tell you how dumb of that statement is. The Wooten memo was already brought up in motion and was denied. They couldn't bring it up. But some senator from the state of Washington got a hold of the Wooten memo and put it on national TV, and everybody thought the Wooten memo is the reason the case was dismissed. I'm here to tell you right now is because Ryan established a status standing as jurisdiction, and he was able to talk about the Constitution. And from that moment on, it was a constitutional court of record with a summary judgment. That's simple. That's simple.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is there any benefit to us, all these bonds that are released on us at our birth, or are they just used against us, so to speak,
Well,
by the system?
right now they're used against you. Prior to 1999, we could get a few things paid off with our bonds. Most people since then who state that are lying to you, or they end up in jail for fraud and doing it. Why? Because the country went through another bankruptcy in 1999. And they went through another one in 2011. This country just keeps going into bankruptcy,
Now there's no way
changing
to
little
access-
tiny things, and then they hold the debt. The courts collect off this system $1 trillion a day.
And we can't collect.
I wasn't going to tell you that because it shocks people to the core. $1 trillion a day. That's more in 25 days than our entire gross domestic product of the United States. Where is the money in this country? It's in the bond market.
It's ledgers, it's just ledgers, it's not gold and silver.
It's not backed by gold and silver. No. It's backed by your labor. You are the full faith and credit of the United States government. All under that umbrella of the Public Charitable Trust. All Cestui Que Vie trusts are the full faith and credit of the United States government. All 327.2 million people. However, the majority of them all live in Washington, D.C., like you all. And the reason I'm telling you that is if you haven't repudiated your citizenship with the Secretary of State as Title 8, Section 1101, A21, a state national, the only one with limited diplomatic immunity as per the Geneva Convention, your status is in Washington, D.C. because of the sheer way you write your address on your mail. If you put a zip code on your mail, you're in the District of the District of Columbia, and you just reside as a resident in Arkansas temporarily to do business, because that's the definition of the word resident. Someone there temporarily to do business. See, I'm a people, a man, a living soul, a son of God, an inhabitant. No, I won't be a citizen of anything.
Enemy.
Ephesians, 2 Ephesians 19, God says we're citizens, fellow citizens.
It got perverted. And it's also with the lower C. In all of our United States documentation, it's a large C. And then it got perverted. City means municipal. Zen means society. We were supposed to be members of society, but they changed the definition to municipal instead of member. Got perverted. Now we can't be a citizen of anything. You're state national. You're in Arkansas.
Can you talk about the path, David?
Yeah, I was going to do that tomorrow, but
Okay.
You said I could have a question earlier, remember? Okay.
yeah, I remember.
Previous page. Passports,
Hmm.
are those CM?
What's the Constitution say? It says to be safe in your papers and your effect.
Are they issued papers you were talking about earlier?
Your passport is your papers and your effect. That the Constitution, understand what a Constitution is. It's a compact. We, the people, lay down the law. How many people have read The Law of Nations by Vattel, besides him? What? 1, 2, 3, 4 people have read The Law of Nations. That is the first international law document ever written for international law. That's how nations were founded, how nations were set up.
Since the passport is universally recognized, that means that this ownership of labor is almost all countries?
197 of them last count. So far, 14 of them backed out in Zurich in July when I was there. I got 14 sovereign nations to sign a pact in Zurich last month. July. Not last month. We're in September. Month before last. I lose track. Yeah, 14 sovereign nations so far. I'm working on 15.
David, tomorrow we're going to talk about a passport, state national versus state citizen. So
Okay.
you all can be aware that that's going to be answered directly, correct?
If I don't, remind me.
We will.
Okay. It's hard to cover everything in a short period of time. And I'm also, believe it or not, as much as I've showed you already, I'm trying to keep it very simple and duplicatable. We can make this very complicated. I'm saying don't.
Well, do you have any templates?
God, I hate that word.
Like,
I hate that word, template.
you got any go-bys?
Yes, I have 350,000 documents on this computer right here. And then some. Probably another 10,000 books on there. So yeah, there's templates for everything. God, I hate that word. Forms and templates. Those are the downfall. Never fill out a government form. Who wrote forms? Attorneys. Attorneys control government. They control the legislature. They have usurped every branch of government. Trump, in all the good that he tries to do while he's being beat to death, he has to run to attorneys to see if it's okay. Or he does it, and then it goes to attorneys, and they either overrule him or they don't. But attorneys, bar members, control every branch of government.
I'm Sergeant Robert Horton, United States Army Special Operations. I was a psychological operations specialist from 1999 to 2012, and I'm also a son of the American Revolution.
For anybody out there that doesn't think the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force isn't real, let me just tell you, it's real.
How did you figure this out? Because this is something that you went through kind of your own channels and verified yourself.
Right.
I mean, without giving any specific
I called the
names.
Pentagon switchboard and talked. I called the Pentagon switchboard and talked to somebody up at JAG.
As we enact these reforms, we follow the vision of President John F. Kennedy, who predicted the rise of special operations nearly 60 years ago.
And what if I told you that they put a price on the head of people like Tim Holmstead and me and others? How many people use Google? How many people use Android? You support child trafficking?
This is how they're manipulating you, right? This is how we can control your conduct. No,
hide the same way that Mr. Holmes had to hide.
For every little child that goes to bed at night after being tortured and abused and just wants to see their mom and dad and their family.
Hide the same way that Mr. Holmes had to hide.
You fight for those children. Don't you ever quit fighting for those little children.
We didn't want him to hide the same way that Mr. Holmes had to hide.